Hello. As I mentioned yesterday, if you haven't seen yesterday's game, I played the King's Gambit. Um, and my inspiration for playing the King's Gambit years ago was this game. It's the Immortal game. It was played in 1851 between Adolf Anderson and Lionel. I don't know if my name's Lionel Kizaritsky. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If not, oops. Um, in London in 1851. It was a casual match, even though it was played at the London tournament. It was just casual between rounds. This is still one of the most taught games. It was taught to me a while ago while I was learning chess, and it basically teaches that development is one of the key aspects of chess. Even though you may have a material advantage, um, that doesn't mean anything if the pieces you have aren't doing anything. So without further ado, let's get into the game. So, um, King's Gambit, as I mentioned, it was very popular around this time, known as the Romantic era of chess. Um, and so this is the Bishop's Gambit. There's two moves you can play here. The more common move, especially these days, is Knight F3. Whereas what was played here was Bishop. And essentially, this, in my opinion, is a stronger move. It allows the bishop to be developed. Most lines in knight f3, the bishop comes here anyway. It is the best square for the bishop to be on, especially because like this square is a lot of the time the weakness in black's camp. Similar here for white, this f7 square, f2 square for white, and so um, what this leaves is it leaves this queen check, and as I mentioned, this f2 square, black can exploit this, but that's no issue because here white can just sidestep the check, and this queen it's a bit misplaced here. It's not really attacking anything. It can easily be kicked from knight here, and it'll have to retreat anyway. And as we know in gambits, especially King's Gambit, um, development with tempo is key. And essentially, all of these pieces are still back here, whereas the queen is out, and black's going to have to waste another move, maybe even a few more moves, moving the queen back and forth as it just keeps getting attacked, which is the key principle in the King's Gambit. Um, so continuing on with the game, black played this move, and essentially this was a key idea at the time. It's not a great move, but at the time, obviously, 170 years ago, computers weren't even invented for another 100 years after this, and so you just had to play based on practical chances. And it was seen that this bishop, the square this bishop was on, this diagonal, it just needed to be moved, and this was a very key idea at the time. And so after taking, uh, if any of you have seen the Evans Gambit, it's a similar idea where you can push this pawn and then and then after a bishop takes, you get a tempo, and then you can take. Whereas a key difference here is that the queen isn't on this square for black, and so it's not supporting this d5 push. So white takes the pawn, and both sides develop. And as I mentioned, this knight it attacks the queen, and even though this pawn was attacked, white has a threat of their own, and obviously the queen is worth more than the pawn, so black moves their queen before taking the pawn. White defends this pawn, but also uh, attacks this pawn here, which is x-rayed onto the queen. So maybe even ideas of g3 with looking onto this pawn, and so black plays here defending, and this also sets up this threat of knight here, because after knight, if black just plays anything random, black can play here, and essentially you can't take because then black gets this move in, and as you can see, the queen's just in behind, and after this, All these pieces aren't developed, and even though these pieces aren't either, the queens are off the board. There aren't many attacking chances for either side, and so black can easily use the material advantage to convert to a win. However, to prevent this, white played knight here, and so now if black tries this, you can take, and this not only is this knight protected, but this knight is preventing the queen from taking the rook. And so white plays here, attacking the knight. White moves away, which was one of the key ideas of coming here also. So it could come to this square, which is a far more aggressive square, attacking all these key squares in black's camp. And so, as I mentioned before, black attacks the bishop, and you wouldn't think that white would just leave this, but white just says, you know what, I'm just going to attack your knight, and you can take my bishop. I can attack your knight. I can push. I can try and trap your queen. And so after here, so black drops the knight back, and white defends defends this pawn, as after takes, h4 is played. It's defended by the knight, and so the queen only has one square left. Attack the queen again. Again, the queen's only got one square. And see, look how many times this queen's moved. It's gone here, 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 here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times that the queen has moved. And look how many times you've been able to develop. Like, okay, this piece was traded off, but this pawn is on the 5th rank. Far advanced. This king is safe. There's nothing can attack this king, because all of the pieces are back here. Whereas here, this knight is far advanced into the camp. Black's king is really weak here. And so white develops their queen, and also threatens to, on the next move, if black just plays anything, this traps the queen. Queen has no squares to go to. All of these squares here are defended, and so the queen would be trapped. And so instead of this, they have to make a square for the queen. And the only way of doing that is by moving the knight. And since all of these squares are taken, the only square for the knight is back here. And so black plays back here. And already the computer is giving this position, even though, back here, even though you're down in material, white is down a bishop here. The computer already gives +2 for white, which just shows how the development here is such an advantage for white. And so here, white continues, taking back a pawn, and also developing his bishop, more importantly, and attacking the queen. Now, black develops the queen. Black retreats the queen, sorry. On the next move, you can see all of these pieces here developed. Rooks pretty much connected. These pawns, look how strong this center is. Whereas black, everything apart from this queen is back on its starting square. One of the first things you're told when you're learning principles in opening is to don't develop your queen too early, because it can get attacked. And this is a perfect example of that. Now, finally, white can develop another piece. Here, you can play many moves. Pawn d4, again, gaining tempo on the bishop. Maybe having to move back here, but then a move like this, which just wins the bishop, as you can't defend it here or here, as the knight defends. But instead, this move, essentially the idea here is this knight, again, along with this knight. Look how many squares these knights cover. Oh, not that one. Yeah. Look at all these squares. Look how weak these pieces are. All these pieces back where they back where they started. And even though you're attacking this rook, you're attacking the queen, so the queen moves. And now this move is, the computer doesn't actually like this move. This isn't theoretically sound, but remember, this game was played in 1851, 150 years ago. Computers, it doesn't matter what the computer evaluation is. All that matters is the practical, how practical the position is to play. And just look at these pieces. This king is completely exposed. There's no protection around here, and this position is just far easier for white to play. And so you're attacking this piece, and if you trade, then this king, you can't go here because checkmate, and here, oh, it's mate in two. Ah, there you go. So so black can't take here, and so black's next move, they see a rook, so they take it. Why not gain the exchange? And so what I'm sure they're expecting was take, and then move here, and then you've just won both of the rooks. You've just won both of the white rooks as black. And even though your pieces are here, this surely is enough for you. But here, one of the most characteristic moves among all of this chaos, among all of the piece sacrifices, is pawn push. Now, essentially, the idea behind this, while it opens the queen onto this diagonal, attacking the rook, obviously white isn't interested in their rooks. They've just hanged both of their rooks. Remember, this rook is able to be taken at any point. The purpose of this move was this queen. Well, this queen was defending this pawn. This knight would love to take this pawn, because in this position, if black just plays anything, it's just simply mate in two. Whereas in this position, if you take, the queen can just take back, and then you're down 10 points of material. You've just lost one of your main attacking pieces. White's queen is back in time to defend. But with this move, the queen is now completely cut out from the defense. And so white tries, white grabs the pawn, white grabs the rook, sorry, but the king just calmly just steps here. Calmly e2. And now the queen doesn't have any meaningful checks. If you take, taken, here, takes, takes. There's nowhere for the queen to go to bother the king anymore. This king is now safe. And so no matter what black plays, you're unable to stop the knight taking here. Tries this, but it's no good. They try and defend this square from the bishop, but here is one of the greatest mate in threes that I've ever seen, and certainly that I'd seen when I saw this game for the first time. At a first glance, well, you look here, the king comes here, but now this knight covers all of these squares. These are the main two squares, because the king, it can't move anywhere. You just need to check the king. But this knight is a very, very valuable piece defensively. And so what kind of immortal game, one of the greatest games ever, would be complete without queen sacrifice? It's a forcing move. Well, you either have to go here, which mate in one, obviously, or you take the queen. And now, calmly, bishop here. Checkmate. Black's 3 pieces left, all working together in perfect harmony to checkmate the king. Look at all of these pieces. None of them are doing anything. Sure, you can see up here, plus 21 points of material, but none of the pieces mean anything when they don't control the squares around your king, and when they don't mean anything. Here's a perfect example of how material isn't the only thing in chess that matters. Sometimes I even catch myself thinking, oh, I need to defend this. I need to defend this piece. I need to defend this piece. Whereas instead, what I think we should be asking is, how can I use this piece to gain the most value? And if that value can be placed elsewhere, then perhaps that piece isn't enough value, and you can just let that piece go as long as you have the initiative. Like I mentioned, the white position was far easier to play than black's, far easier to play, and so I think just there's a lot to be learned. And when I first saw this game, it was my mind was blown. I'm not gonna lie. And even here, this queen, um, this queen defending this square, wouldn't be possible without this pawn push. And so Adolf Anderson would have had to see all of this when he allowed this queen to come in here. When he played this move, he'd have known about he'd have certainly have known about this move, but he'd have seen this as well, seeing that this cuts off the queen completely from these squares. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I was able to provide a useful commentary on this game. It's one of my favourites of all time, as I've mentioned. I just think it's so beautiful how these pieces just work together. The weaknesses in the king, the weaknesses on the dark square, and how the dark square bishop is nowhere to be seen. Neither is the queen. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, I'll be back soon with some more games, and I will not be losing or playing any stupid moves that end up in a draw. Yeah. So, thank you very much for watching, and bye.